Long before cities rose along its banks and steamboats carried goods across its waters, the Mississippi River flowed quietly through the heart of North America, shaping the land and nurturing life across a vast and fertile continent. Stretching over 3,700 kilometers, it would one day become one of the most important rivers in the world, but its story began thousands of years before the rise of modern civilization. The origins of the Mississippi River lie deep in geological time. During the last ice age, massive glaciers covered much of North America. As these glaciers slowly retreated, they carved out valleys, redirected water flows, and left behind enormous quantities of sediment. It was through this gradual and powerful process that the Mississippi River basin began to take shape. The river's source is traditionally identified as Lake Itasca, a relatively small and quiet lake in present-day Minnesota. From this humble beginning, a narrow stream begins its long journey southward, gathering strength as it is joined by countless tributaries. Over time, it transforms into a massive waterway that cuts through the center of the continent before eventually emptying into the Gulf of Mexico. But the Mississippi River is more than just a river, it is a system. Its network of tributaries, including major rivers like the Missouri and the Ohio, forms one of the largest drainage systems on Earth. This vast network has played a critical role in shaping the geography, ecology, and human history of North America. Long before European explorers arrived, the Mississippi River was the lifeline of numerous indigenous civilizations. Native American tribes lived along its banks for thousands of years, relying on its waters for food, transportation, and agriculture. The river provided fertile soil through regular flooding, allowing crops to grow and communities to thrive. One of the most remarkable early cultures connected to the Mississippi River was the Mississippian civilization. Centered around large settlements such as Cahokia, this civilization flourished between approximately 800 and 1600 CE. Cahokia itself was a massive urban center, with large earthen mounds, complex social structures, and a population that rivaled some of the largest cities in the world at the time. The river was central to their way of life. It served as a highway for trade, allowing goods, ideas, and culture to move across vast distances. Items such as shells, copper, and stone tools were exchanged between distant communities, creating a network of interaction that stretched across much of North America. For these early inhabitants, the Mississippi River was not just a physical feature, it held deep spiritual significance. It was seen as a powerful force of nature, a source of life and renewal, and a connection between different worlds. As centuries passed, the river continued to shape the lives of those who lived along its banks. Tribes such as the Ojibwe, Dakota, and Choctaw developed rich cultures deeply tied to the rhythms of the river. They understood its cycles, respected its power, and adapted to its changes. Everything began to shift in the 16th and 17th centuries with the arrival of European explorers. In 1541, the Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto became one of the first Europeans to encounter the Mississippi River. Leading an expedition through the southeastern United States, de Soto and his men reached the river and were struck by its immense size and strength. To them, it represented both an obstacle and an opportunity, a vast unknown that hinted at the scale of the continent they were exploring. However, it would be the French who would truly begin to explore and map the river. In the late 17th century, explorers such as Jacques Marquette and Louis Joliet traveled along portions of the Mississippi, documenting its course and establishing connections with indigenous tribes. Their journeys revealed the strategic importance of the river. It was not just a natural wonder, it was a potential route for trade, expansion, and control. This realization led to one of the most significant moments in the river's history. In 1682, the French explorer René Robert Cavelier, Sieur de La Salle, traveled down the Mississippi River all the way to its mouth at the Gulf of Mexico. There, he claimed the entire Mississippi River basin for France, naming the territory Louisiana in honor of King Louis XIV. With this claim, the Mississippi River became a central axis of European colonial ambition in North America. French settlements began to appear along the river, most notably the city of New Orleans, which would later grow into one of the most important ports in the region. The river became a vital trade route, connecting the interior of the continent to international markets. Fur traders, missionaries, and settlers traveled its waters, establishing a French presence that would last for decades. Yet, the river also became a site of conflict, as European powers competed for control over North America. Throughout this period, the Mississippi River remained both a bridge and a boundary, a route for movement and a line of division. Its waters carried not only goods and people but also ideas, cultures, and conflicts. It connected distant regions while also marking territories between rival empires. As the 18th century progressed, control of the Mississippi River shifted between European powers, including France, Spain, and eventually Britain. Each sought to harness its strategic and economic value, recognizing that whoever controlled the river could influence the fate of the continent. Despite these changes, the river itself remained constant, flowing steadily southward, shaping the land and the lives of all who depended on it. By the end of this early period, the Mississippi River had already established itself as one of the most important natural features in North America. It had supported ancient civilizations, guided explorers, and attracted the ambitions of empires. Yet, its greatest transformation was still to come. In the years ahead, the Mississippi River would become the backbone of a growing nation, a symbol of expansion, and a powerful force in the history of the United States. But even in these early chapters, its significance was undeniable. From its quiet beginnings at Lake Itasca to its vast, winding journey to the Gulf of Mexico, the Mississippi River had already begun to shape the destiny of a continent, long before the modern world truly understood its power. As European powers tightened their grip on North America, the Mississippi River transformed from a natural wonder into one of the most strategically important waterways in the world. What had once been a lifeline for indigenous civilizations and a route for early exploration was now becoming the backbone of empire, commerce, and expansion. By the 18th century, control of the Mississippi River had become a central objective for competing colonial powers. France, Spain, and Britain all recognized its immense value, not only as a transportation route but as a key to controlling the interior of the continent. The river connected vast territories, fertile lands, and growing settlements, making it essential for trade and communication. Initially, France held much of the Mississippi River basin through its colony of Louisiana. French traders and settlers used the river to transport furs, timber, and agricultural goods. Small settlements grew along its banks, and cities like New Orleans became crucial hubs for commerce. However, after the 7 Years' War, control of the river shifted dramatically. France ceded much of its North American territory to Spain and Britain, dividing control of the Mississippi between these powers. For a time, Spain controlled the lower Mississippi, including New Orleans, while Britain held territory to the east. This division created tension, especially for the newly independent United States. After the American Revolution, the United States emerged as a young nation eager to expand westward. Settlers began moving into territories beyond the Appalachian Mountains, drawn by the promise of fertile land and new opportunities. But their success depended heavily on access to the Mississippi River. For these settlers, the river was not just important, it was essential. Farmers in regions such as Kentucky and Tennessee relied on the Mississippi to transport their goods to market. Crops like corn, wheat, and tobacco needed to be shipped downstream to ports like New Orleans, where they could be sold or exported. Without access to the river, economic growth in these frontier regions would have been severely limited. Recognizing this, American leaders sought to secure control over the Mississippi. Their opportunity came in 1803 with one of the most significant land deals in history, the Louisiana Purchase. Negotiated with France under the rule of Napoleon Bonaparte, the United States acquired a territory that included the entire Mississippi River basin west of the river. This purchase effectively doubled the size of the United States and gave it full control over the Mississippi River. It eliminated foreign threats to American trade along the river and opened the door to massive westward expansion. With the river now firmly under American control, its importance grew rapidly. During the early 19th century, the Mississippi became a major artery of commerce. Flatboats and keelboats were initially used to transport goods, but these methods were slow and labor-intensive. Everything changed with the introduction of the steamboat. The invention of steamboat technology revolutionized river travel. For the first time, vessels could move upstream against the current with relative ease. This dramatically increased the efficiency of trade and allowed for faster movement of people and goods. Cities along the Mississippi began to flourish. New Orleans became one of the busiest ports in the world, handling goods from across the American interior. Other cities, such as St. Louis and Memphis, also grew rapidly, becoming key economic centers. The river was now more than just a natural feature, it was the economic lifeline of a growing nation. However, this period of expansion and prosperity also came with darker consequences. The Mississippi River played a significant role in the expansion of slavery in the United States. As plantations spread across the southern states, enslaved people were forced to work in the production of cash crops like cotton and sugar. These goods were then transported along the river to markets and ports. The river thus became deeply connected to the economic system of slavery, linking agricultural production in the South to global trade networks. At the same time, the expansion of American settlement along the Mississippi led to the displacement of indigenous peoples. Tribes that had lived along the river for generations were pushed off their lands through treaties, conflicts, and forced removals. One of the most tragic examples of this was the Trail of Tears, during which thousands of Native Americans were forcibly relocated from their ancestral lands to territories west of the Mississippi. The journey resulted in immense suffering and loss of life. Thus, while the river brought economic growth and opportunity, it also became a symbol of conflict, inequality, and human suffering. As the nation continued to expand, the Mississippi River also became strategically important during times of war. During the American Civil War, control of the river was a key objective for both the Union and the Confederacy. Whoever controlled the Mississippi could divide the opposing side and disrupt its supply lines. The Union recognized this and launched a series of campaigns to gain control of the river. One of the most important moments came with the Siege of Vicksburg in 1863. After a prolonged and difficult campaign, Union forces captured the city, effectively gaining control of the Mississippi River. This victory split the Confederacy in two and marked a turning point in the war. By the end of the Civil War, the Mississippi River had once again proven its strategic importance, not just for trade, but for the survival of nations. In the decades that followed, the river continued to serve as a vital transportation route, even as railroads began to emerge as a competing form of transport. Steamboats remained a common sight, carrying goods, passengers, and stories along the river's winding path. The Mississippi River had become deeply embedded in the identity of the United States. It was a symbol of opportunity and expansion, but also of conflict and change. It connected regions, shaped economies, and influenced the course of history in profound ways. From colonial struggles to national growth, from innovation to tragedy, the Mississippi River stood at the center of it all. And as the nation moved into the modern era, the role of the river would continue to evolve, facing new challenges, new technologies, and new realities. But its importance would never fade. The Union recognized this and launched a series of campaigns to gain control of the river. One of the most important moments came with the Siege of Vicksburg in 1863. After a prolonged and difficult campaign, Union forces captured the city, effectively gaining control of the Mississippi River. This victory split the Confederacy in two and marked a turning point in the war. By the end of the Civil War, the Mississippi River had once again proven its strategic importance, not just for trade, but for the survival of nations. In the decades that followed, the river continued to serve as a vital transportation route, even as railroads began to emerge as a competing form of transport. Steamboats remained a common sight, carrying goods, passengers, and stories along the river's winding path. The Mississippi River had become deeply embedded in the identity of the United States. It was a symbol of opportunity and expansion, but also of conflict and change. It connected regions, shaped economies, and influenced the course of history in profound ways. From colonial struggles to national growth, from innovation to tragedy, the Mississippi River stood at the center of it all.